So a lot of what we got going on is our sheathing as well as getting ready for our WRB. So let's talk about the WRB real quick. We started to install some of this on the back here. We actually have a high school kid that's joining us for co-op. He's gonna be working on that with the rest of our team. But we're using the Siga MyVest and it's the 500 SA. So SA means it's self-adhered, but I wanted to call attention to, number one, it's the tenacity of the self-adhered. It gets rolled on, but you're gonna notice all of the corners, none of this gets wrapped around. So that's a really important detail to make sure. It's same thing on the inside here. You're gonna bring that next sheet here, and then inside corners, outside corners, all of that gets taped. That way it has the ability to stretch. If you were to wrap that corner, over time, it has the potential of failing. So we decided to build the entire house, get all the sheathing up, and then work our way around by wrapping the whole house, kind of like a present. A lot of you guys had asked why we're not using like a zip or something that is an all-in-one. It's just a choice of ours. I do like the ability to kind of wrap the whole house up. As you're adding straps, like the shear straps, you got all the blocking, you're not going through that surface. You're basically building all the house, all of your fasteners are done, and then you're wrapping it up again like a present. I've said that probably 3 times. But with that being said, this gives us the opportunity to wrap everything up, and then what we're gonna do is start prepping all of our windows. So our windows are coming in next week. So we're gonna have our team go around and prep every single window opening, do it all in one, kind of like a assembly line. Get everything done, and then come back and then start installing windows. But going back to the roof, a lot of you guys had asked, you know, and we actually even talked about it, what we're gonna be putting on the roof. We are not putting an asphalt roof. We will tell you what we're putting on the roof here in the coming weeks. We're working out the details as well as the color. If you guys have paid attention to a mock-up we did in the previous, you might be able to guess what we're doing, but we'll touch base on that in a future episode. But let's talk about the sheathing. So we have this swooping roof on the back here as well as the front. We'll go into the front in a minute. Even though that's a gradual swoop, we want that roof to be nice and smooth. So on the lower section here, we actually have 2 layers of 3/8 plywood, and then when it flattens out at the top, we switch to a 3/4 inch plywood. Why? 3/8 and 3/8 equals 3/4, and everything matches up, and it gives us that nice sturdy deck for the future roof. So as we work our way up here, this is our temporary deck that we talked about. This is where they built all those trusses. A lot of you guys had asked if we built trusses or bought the trusses off site. We built everything on site. The guys from Chevcon built every single truss here on the deck. You can actually see some of the layout lines. The only trusses that we didn't build was the garage. The garage trusses actually sit in the backyard over there, and they'll be prepped and ready for the garage to go up at a later time. If you come over here, you can actually see how the main back roof is swooped down to this lower elevation, and then the roof above what is going to be our living room actually planes out at the very top, but then swoops on its own radius coming down. Dimitri and his guys from Chevcon, they've already installed some ice and water in there because it's gonna be really tricky to get up and in there with your waterproofing detail. So as they're framing, they're installing that in preparation for the future roof. If you were to peek in here, you can actually see we have a platform that's built. I've talked about this before. There's a platform that looks like a 1-story living room, but if you back up and see those windows up underneath that swooping roof, those windows actually will flood down into a 2-story living room. That platform is temporary so they can work. And the nice part is we actually have this amazing truss detail that the Teak Design Group designed. So there's some big timber trusses that will be in there. And that platform gives us the opportunity to work on that ceiling before it is a 2-story space. So why don't we go upstairs and look at the framing up there. Before we do, I do want to pit stop. We talked about this as well. The garage is all prepped and ready for concrete. So we got our stego wrapped, everything is turned up and taped. Moisture is not a huge concern at this elevation, but it's kind of one of those things where it's like, you know what, we have the material. Let's create a nice vapor barrier here and get that concrete slab sitting on top of this and prepped and ready for the garage. It will get insulated and blue boarded and plastered. So we want to make sure that the space is finished. Plus any moisture making its way up into the space, let's try to block that. So, you know, while we're not climate controlling the garage, they could always climate control it in the future. And then we have our utility stair that we've talked about here in the garage, which eliminates the need for a bulkhead. Before we actually go upstairs, we also have the front single car garage prepped as well. And we haven't talked about this room here. There's actually 2 powder rooms in this home. This is the powder room that is right off the side entry, probably the more commonly used one, and we have one up near the front formal entry, but where the camera is actually a very special room. So I have a sink and a toilet here and then this is going to be a pocket door, and there's going to be some special plumbing in here, but I'll share that in a future episode. It was something that the husband wanted. It was actually one of the first things they had talked about and communicated on their want list early on in the process. So we were able to tuck that back there. I'm sure if you're a guy, you know what I'm talking about, and if you're a woman and you know what I'm talking about, you might be frustrated only because they're not aesthetically pleasing to look at. Where am I going? I'm going the wrong way. I meant to go upstairs. So upstairs, we have our interior walls done. We talked about the roof framing. This is actually our second staircase too. So this is off the side entry near that powder room. We have a main staircase that is in the front of the house, which would be more ornamental. But due to the fact that due to the length of this home, the two staircase really made sense. What we have going on here is all the interior walls are going together. You're starting to see some of the bedrooms take shape. We have a center laundry room right here. Mike actually moved the attic access. It was in the hallway before, kind of just dropped in place in the boilerplate location. Mike dropped the attic access into the laundry room because it's going to be more of a utility room. And then you have one of our bedrooms here with a great look out over the future backyard. You'll have another bedroom over here, another bedroom here, as well as over there. So you're getting 4 bedrooms, all of which have a bathroom right off of it, so an ensuite. And then as you work your way down, you got a really cool sitting space here. But the fun part is what I call the homework loft. And this homework loft will essentially open up, and this will be our bridge between the main house and the primary suite. And this roof has not been framed yet, but when it gets framed, we'll have this kind of tight little loft area with a roof line real low. And the design is to be kind of like this, not necessarily secret, but kind of detached space where you can open up and have a private reading room, sit down, do your homework, hang out, and maybe just read a book. As we're walking through this, you can really appreciate kind of how the structure is coming together. A lot of you guys had comments about being overbuilt, or I could have simplified that. And it's always funny because a lot of this is really hard to show in video. And for example, we have this beam here that you can see all of the rafters are hung off. And this is a very specific detail on the way that this is supports the roof at the very top and all the way down. And ultimately what drove that is the architectural design. But we have to work with that and work with the engineer and make sure that we're doing things correctly, structurally sound. But for me, and at this point in the process, it's really fun to walk around and see all of the hardware, see the big LVL rafters. This is actually a great shot here. You can actually see the webbing and then that 2x that's on top that is starting to create that curve. While on the outside, it is all curved, on the inside, it's going to be flat like this. So we'll have these cool roof lines kind of situated on the interior here. So it's cool to see all of the hardware and how this is coming together, and really see how the roof lines kind of start interacting with the interior spaces here on the second floor. So like I mentioned, we're starting to wrap the outside of the house. That's going to open up the opportunity for us to start our masonry. And our masonry is really cool. We'll share this in the future, but it is all reclaimed brick. And I know there's a story behind it. I believe it's an old train station. So we're going to share a little bit more about where the brick came from, what it looks like, and then also start seeing it go up on the home. So we have a lot of the facade is brick on the front, and we also have some masonry chimney on the front and a masonry chimney in the middle of the home because we have multiple fireplaces. So we'll see you guys next week when we have another update as we continue to get this place closed in and dried in before the winter comes.